Hey everyone, welcome to Word Flow. Today, we will understand the famous book Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki and Sharon Lechter. This book is one of the most popular books in the world about money. It's not just a book, it's like a guide that teaches us how to think about money in a smart way. It's written like a story, so it's easy to understand, even if you're new to learning about finances. Whether you're a student, a worker, or just someone who wants to be better with money, this book has something for you. So, let's jump into the story and discover what makes Rich Dad Poor Dad so special. The book is about a young boy named Robert, who is the author himself. Robert has two dads. One is his real dad, who he calls Poor Dad. The other is his best friend's dad, who he calls Rich Dad. These two dads are very different, and they teach Robert different lessons about life and money. Poor Dad is a teacher with a good education. He has a steady job and works hard every day. But no matter how hard he works, he always has money problems. He pays bills, buys things, and never has enough left over. Rich Dad, on the other hand, is not very educated in the traditional way. He didn't finish college, but he owns businesses, invests in properties, and is very wealthy. Why are their lives so different? That's what Robert wants to find out. Let's talk about Poor Dad first. Poor Dad believes in the traditional path to success. He tells Robert, go to school, study hard, get good grades, and find a safe job with a big company. He thinks a good job with a salary and benefits, like health insurance, will make you happy and secure. Poor Dad works as a teacher and earns a decent salary, but is always worried about money. He buys things like a big house and a nice car to look successful, but these things cost a lot. He takes loans to pay for them, and the loans keep him stressed. Poor Dad thinks that working harder and earning more will solve his problems, but it never does. Now, let's meet Rich Dad. Rich Dad has a completely different way of thinking. He tells Robert, don't work for money. Make money work for you. Rich Dad believes that a job is not the answer to wealth. Instead, you need to learn how to use your money wisely. He says being rich is not about how much money you make, it's about what you do with the money you have. Rich Dad doesn't spend all his money on fancy things. Instead, he invests it in things that make more money, like businesses, real estate, or stock. He teaches Robert that financial knowledge is the key to freedom. One of the biggest lessons in Rich Dad Poor Dad is the difference between assets and liabilities. This is super important, so let's make it really clear. An asset is something that puts money in your pocket. For example, if you buy a big car with a loan, you have to pay the loan every month. That's a liability. Poor Dad buys liabilities, like expensive cars and a big house with a mortgage, because he thinks they show he's successful. But these things make him poorer. Rich Dad buys assets, like rental properties or businesses, that make him richer over time. Rich Dad's rule is simple. Buy assets, not liabilities. Let me give you an example to make it even clearer. Imagine two friends, Sarah and John. Sarah gets a good job and earns a lot of money. She buys a fancy car, a big house, and takes expensive vacations. She looks rich, but she's always paying loans and bills, so she has no savings. John, on the other hand, earns less, but is smart with his money. He buys a small apartment and rents it out. The rent money becomes his asset. Over time, John buys more apartments, and the rent money makes him wealthy. Sarah is like Poor Dad, and John is like Rich Dad. The book teaches us to be like John. Another big lesson is about financial education. In school, we learn subjects like math, science, and English, but we don't learn how to manage money. Rich Dad says this is a big problem. He tells Robert, if you want to be rich, you need to learn about money yourself. Financial education means understanding things like how to invest, how taxes work, how to start a business, and how to save money. For example, Rich Dad teaches Robert about real estate. He shows him how to buy a house at a low price, fix it up, and rent it out for profit. This kind of knowledge helps you build wealth. The book also talks about the mindset of rich people versus poor people. Poor Dad has a worker mindset. He thinks, I need a job to pay my bills, and if I work harder, I'll be okay. He's afraid of taking risks, so he stays in his safe job. Rich Dad has an entrepreneur mindset. He thinks, how can I create opportunities to make money? He's not afraid to take smart risks, like starting a business or investing in something new. Rich Dad says, don't be afraid of failing. Failure is how you learn. This mindset is what makes him successful. Now, let's dive deeper into the story of the book. Rich Dad Poor Dad is not just a list of money tips, it's Robert's personal journey. When Robert is a young boy, He and his best friend Mike want to be rich. They try silly things, like making fake coins, hoping to get rich quickly. Rich Dad laughs and says, "That's not how it works." Instead, he offers to teach them about money, but he doesn't give them easy answers. He gives them real-life lessons. One of the first lessons happens when Robert is only 9 years old. Rich Dad gives Robert a job at one of his small stores. The job is hard, and the pay is super low, only 10 cents an hour. Robert gets frustrated and wants to quit. He complains to Rich Dad, saying, "This job is terrible." Rich Dad smiles and says, "This is your first lesson." Most people stay in low-paying jobs because they don't know how to create their own opportunities. He tells Robert to stop thinking like an employee and start thinking like a business owner. This lesson changes how Robert sees the world. Rich Dad also teaches Robert and Mike through games and challenges. For example, he plays the board game Monopoly with them. In Monopoly, you buy properties, build houses, and collect rent. Rich Dad says, "This game is like real life. If you buy assets, like properties, you win." He shows them how to think strategically about money, just like in the game. As Robert grows up, he keeps learning from both dads. From Poor Dad, he learns the value of education and hard work, but he sees that Poor Dad's way doesn't lead to wealth. Poor Dad works hard, but is always stressed about bills. From Rich Dad, Robert learns how to invest, take risks, and build businesses. For example, Rich Dad teaches him how to buy a small piece of land, wait for its value to go up, and sell it for a profit. By following Rich Dad's advice, Robert starts making money even as a teenager. The book has 6 main lessons that Rich Dad teaches Robert. Let's go through them slowly so you can understand each one. 1. The rich don't work for money. Instead of working hard for a salary, rich people make their money work for them through investments and businesses. 2. Learn about money. Financial education is more important than school grades. Learn about investing, taxes, and how money works. 3. Mind your own business. Don't just work for someone else's company. Build your own assets, like a side business or investments. 4. Understand taxes and businesses. Learn how taxes work so you can keep more of your money. For example, owning a business can help you pay less tax legally. 5. Create money. Be creative and find new ways to earn money, like starting a small online shop or investing in stocks. 6. Work to learn, not to earn. Take jobs or opportunities that teach you skills, like how to sell or manage money, even if the pay is low. Let's talk about why this book is so important. Rich Dad, Poor Dad is not just about getting rich. It's about changing how you think about money and life. It teaches you to take control of your future. Many people follow Poor Dad's advice. They go to school, get a job, and work hard. But they end up like Poor Dad, struggling with money. The book shows us a different way, Rich Dad's way. It's about being smart, learning new skills, and building a life where you don't have to worry about money. Here's a real-life example from the book. When Robert is older, he starts investing in real estate. He buys a small house in a good area for a low price. He fixes it up and rents it out. The rent money becomes his asset, and it pays him every month. Over time, he buys more houses, and the rent money makes him wealthy. This is what Rich Dad means by making money work for you. Robert doesn't have to work a 9-to-5 job anymore because his assets give him financial freedom. The book also talks about overcoming fear. Poor Dad is afraid of losing money, so he avoids risks. Rich Dad says fear is normal, but you shouldn't let it stop you. He teaches Robert to start small, learn from mistakes, and keep going. For example, when Robert buys his first property, he's nervous. What if it doesn't work? But he follows Rich Dad's advice, takes the risk, and it pays off. This lesson is for all of us. Don't let fear stop you from trying something new. Another cool thing about the book is that it's not just for adults. Even young people can learn from it. For example, if you're a teenager, you can start a small side hustle, like selling handmade crafts online. Or you can learn about investing by reading books or watching videos. The earlier you start learning about money, the better your future will be. Let's summarize the book in a simple way. Rich Dad, Poor Dad is the story of Robert learning from 2 dads. Poor Dad, who works hard but struggles with money, and Rich Dad, who builds wealth by being smart with money. Poor Dad teaches the traditional way, get a job and work hard. Rich Dad teaches a new way, buy assets, learn about money, take smart risks, and think like an entrepreneur. The book gives us 6 lessons to help us become financially free, like understanding assets and liabilities, getting financial education, and creating opportunities. It's a book that inspires us to think differently and take action. Why should you read Rich Dad Poor Dad? Because it's like a map to a better future. It's not about becoming a millionaire overnight. It's about making small, smart choices that add up over time. Whether you want to start a business, save money, or just understand finances better, this book will help you. It's written in a fun, storytelling way, so it's easy to read, even for beginners. Thanks for watching Word Flow. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to our channel. Share it with your friends, and let us know in the comments what you learned from Rich Dad Poor Dad. Did it change how you think about money? Tell us your thoughts. Stay tuned for more videos to help you learn English and grow smarter every day. See you in the next video.